Part 7. Swallowed Star, My Understanding is Beyond Belief. Author, Bo Yoon Song. Chapter 61. Madman, Monster, you are back. Oh, I knew you were lucky. This rat tide is really terrible, many people died. When Luo Xia and his friends returned to the supply base, they found that many warriors gathered at the gate. Some of them knew Luo Feng and Luo Xia, and they all greeted the two brothers. In the past month, because Luo Xia and Luo Feng could bring many materials of beast general level monsters every time they came back, some warriors gave them nicknames because they recognized their strength. By the way, Madman, when you came out of City 023, did you meet Jian Sun? Google searched Can. Jian Sun. Luo Feng was stunned, remembering that this was a warrior of the middle-level general. Not long ago, they had met and chatted. Luo Xia shook his head regretfully and said, "Sorry, Brother Lu, we didn't see Senior Jian Sunday, is that so?" The other party murmured, his expression became silent. Luo Feng and Luo Xia looked at each other and sighed silently. These few days are destined to be sad. Many warriors lost their lives in this rat tide. Luo Xia also heard that a war god level strongman fell in the rat tide. There are not only beast soldier level rat monsters in the rat tide, but also beast general level existences. These beast general level rat monsters are very intelligent. Once they choose a target, they will do it at all costs. This is Luo Xia and Luo the reason why Feng didn't dare to use mental power to fly when he was escaping. If they were noticed by the rat tide, their fate would probably be the same as that of the god of war. Rightward arrow. Boom. The sky was rolling with dark clouds, the wind was sweeping the earth, and the thunder was roaring. Since escaping back to the supply base, the weather has not been very good. It has rained heavily for 3 consecutive days. Luo Xia and his elder brother Luo Feng were sitting in the villa. There were strong winds and heavy rain outside the window. They were calling their family and friends to report their safety. "Don't worry, Mom and Dad, Xiao Xia and I are fine. We escaped and are now in the supply base. We will be back soon." "Yeah, Captain, Brother Chen, we are fine. Let's meet again when we get back." After talking to his family and friends, Luo Feng received a call from Su Xian. "Luo Feng, are you and your brother okay?" As soon as Luo Feng picked up the phone, Su Xian's worried voice came from it. He smiled and said, "It's okay. We are back to the supply base now. It's safe here." Su Xian on the phone seemed relieved and said, "It's good that you're okay." Luo Xia glanced at his eldest brother on the sofa, stood up and said, "I'm going to take a shower. He won't stay to be a light bulb." Minjiao community in Yangzhou City. Luo Xia's home. In the living room, the family was having dinner, laughing and talking. When they went out with the Fire Hammer team before, they only stayed in the wilderness for a few days and came back. This time, the two brothers were gone for nearly 2 months, and it was a lie for their family members to say that they were not worried. Diamond suit, diamond suit, diamond suit, diamond suit. Until now, Luo Feng and Luo Xia returned safely, and Luo Hongguo and others put down a big stone in their hearts. After dinner, Luo Hongguo and Gong Xinlan were watching TV in the living room, but the 3 brothers came to the audiovisual room for the first time in a long time and played games. "Hey, second brother, go up, I'll give you a shield. What are you afraid of? Go up and output." "My skills are not good yet." "You are a shooter. Go up and shoot." "What do you need skills for?" "There are 4 of them. I'll go and help them." Luo Feng smiled and heard Luo Hua and Luo Xia arguing. He quickly controlled his jungle hero to rush to support and said, okay, I'm coming." In the voice, a female voice came out, "Wait for me, I'm almost there." Luo Xia saw that the 4 opponents suddenly stood together and suddenly shouted, "I'm going." Then, he controlled his auxiliary character, rushed in, and controlled the 4 opponents. At this time, Luo Feng also arrived and shouted, "Nice. Easy to control. I'm coming." He quickly released skills and followed Luo Xia's control. "I'm here too." The female voice sounded, and then the skills were released. In the end, all 4 opponents died and got a quad kill. Soon after, the game ended. Luo Xia said to his second brother Luo Hua, "Second brother, next time you should play the auxiliary, I'll be the shooter, your shooter is too bad." Luo Hua was speechless. "Am I bad? You are a support. No matter how many people come, you always want to go up. There are only 2 of us. If I follow you, won't I be giving myself away?" Luo Xia said righteously, "You control them. What's the fear of having more people? Just control them and it will be done." Luo Hua curled his lips. "Do you think everyone is like you warriors, with terrible nerve reactions, and can control them?" On the other side, Luo Feng was saying goodbye to the girl in the voice just now, "Su Xian, that's it for today. We will play together next time." Su Xian smiled in the voice and said, "Okay, I am very happy today and look forward to playing with you next time." "Xiao Xia is too funny, he he." Luo Feng laughed awkwardly and said, "He is like this. He gets excited when playing games. Well, that's it. Bye. Well, good night." Luo Feng quit the game, looked at his 2 younger brothers who were still discussing, stepped forward helplessly and knocked on their heads, saying, "Okay, you 2, stop arguing, go to bed quickly, Ahua will have another meeting tomorrow going to class, right?" "Oh." Luo Hua and Luo Xia covered their heads and responded at the same time. They looked at each other and became happy at the same time. Luo Xia and Luo Feng got up early in the morning. Gong Xinlan got up early and made breakfast for the family. After the 3 brothers finished breakfast, one went to school and the other 2 walked to the extreme club. "Hey, it's a madman and a little monster. I haven't seen you 2 for a long time. I heard that you have been in City 023 recently." "Yes. I heard from my friends that you 2 have killed a lot of beast-level monsters during this period. You are indeed a famous genius in our community. You are so powerful. Brother Wang praised me." They met many warriors along the way, and Luo Feng and Luo Xia greeted them cheerfully. Entering the extreme club hall, the reception girl in the hall saw the 2 brothers, greeted them with a smile and said, "You 2 came so early. There's no one upstairs yet. Do you want something to drink? I'll bring it up to you later." "No need to bother, we just came here after eating at home." "Thank you, Xiaolan," Luo Feng said with a smile. Saying goodbye to the reception girl, Luo Xia and Luo Feng came to the 6th floor. Sure enough, as Xiaolan said, there were not many people in the guild hall at this time, and the martial arts training hall was very quiet. "Let's get started, Xioxia," Luo Feng said. Rorschach nodded, walked aside and turned on the boxing strength testing machine. Luo Feng walked to the test machine and was about to punch when suddenly a voice came from the door, making the 2 brothers stop. "Luo Feng, Luo Xia, you 2 are indeed here." Luo Xia and Luo Feng turned around and saw the curator Wu Tong walking over. He had a smile on his face, as if he had something good in mind. "Uncle Wu, are you looking for us?" Luo Feng asked. Wu Tong smiled and nodded, glanced at the 2 brothers, and said, "I have something to ask you about. Are you testing your physical fitness now?" Luo Xia and Luo Feng nodded. Wu Tong said, "That's just right. What I'm talking to you about also requires your current physical fitness data. I'll talk to you again after the test is completed." Swallowed Star, my understanding is beyond belief. Author, Bo Yun Song. Chapter 62. Soon, Luo Feng and Luo Xia completed their tests. The results are as follows: the following data does not use force generating techniques. Luo Feng. Boxing strength, 16,200 kilograms. Speed, 6m/s. Nervous response test, intermediate warriors are excellent. Rorschach. Boxing strength, 63,420 kilograms. Speed, 5m/s. Nervous reaction test, advanced warriors are perfect. Wu Tong, who had watched the whole process not far away, stared at the two brothers with his mouth and eyes wide open, with an expression of "Am I dreaming? You guys." He opened his lips and wanted to say something, but the shock was so great that he didn't know what to say for a moment. A few months ago, Luo Feng and Luo Xia's physical fitness reached the level of advanced warriors. How come in such a short period of time, one of the two brothers reached the level of senior warrior and the other reached the level of intermediate warrior? Am I dreaming? Wu Tong looked a little dazed. This span is too big. From senior warrior to senior general, it spans a whole level. Many warriors may never reach the level of a high-level warrior in their lifetime, but Luo Xia has already reached this level at the age of 17. Luo Feng has also become an intermediate warrior. Am I dreaming? Wu Tong said. Diamond suit, diamond suit, diamond suit, diamond suit. Luo Xia and Luo Feng looked at each other, dumbfounded. They knew that when their strength was fully revealed, they would definitely scare some people. But I didn't expect that Wu Tong would be so stimulated. As the director of the guild hall, he actually suspected that he was dreaming. Uncle Wu, of course you are not dreaming, Luo Xia said with a smile. Wu Tong showed a wry smile and shook his head. I just can't believe that your strength can reach such a high level in just a few months. This is really scary. You know, as the director of the Extreme Club, his strength has only reached the level of a senior warrior. Rorschach actually caught up with him. This is outrageous. It gave him a feeling of sadness as when the waves in front of him were pushed away by the waves behind him in the Yangtze River, and the waves in front died on the beach. Luo Feng smiled. In fact, without the awakening of spiritual power, their strength would not have been able to improve so quickly. Uncle Wu, you haven't said what you have to do with us. Wu Tong looked at Luo Xia and Luo Feng with complicated eyes. After a while, he suddenly smiled, shook his head and said, originally, I came to you two to inform you about letting you enter the basic training camp for training of. He looked at the two brothers who were a little confused and explained. Didn't you reach the physical fitness of a senior warrior before? According to your age, your strength is enough to be sent to the basic training camp at the global headquarters for training by the martial arts school. So when you and the Fire Hammer team went to the wilderness area for activities, I applied to the global headquarters of the martial arts school. Then not long ago, the headquarters finally sent me a reply message, hoping that you would go to the general hall in the base city to join the camp. Test. But now. Wu Tong looked at Luo Feng and Luo Xia, smiled and shook his head. I think the headquarters decision will be revised. With your qualifications, you two brothers can definitely enter the elite training camp. His expression was quite emotional and excited. It was originally thought that Luo Xia and Luo Feng could only enter the basic training camp, but now it seems that even if there are no places in the elite training camp, because of the qualifications of the two brothers, the headquarters will make an exception and let them join, right? Luo Feng, Luo Xia, are you willing to enter the elite training camp? If you are willing, I will contact President Zhou Zhenyang of the General Hall now to explain to him. Luo Feng and Luo Xia looked at each other, neither of them expecting that Wu Tong had been busy with their two brothers during this period. Originally, they wanted to apply to enter the elite training camp with Wu Tong, but now they didn't have to think about whether they wanted to or not. Of course I am willing. Luo Feng nodded and said to Wu Tong, then I'll trouble Uncle Wu. Wu Tong laughed, what's the trouble? Hee, I have made a great contribution by discovering monster-level geniuses like you two. With that said, he made a phone call, Just wait, I'll contact President Zhou Zhenyang right away. As he spoke, a virtual figure appeared on the phone screen. It was Zhou Zhenyang, the president of the Jiangnan Bay City Extreme General Hall. Wu Tong? What do you want from me? Generally speaking, the directors of the guild halls in various places have the contact information of the president of the guild hall, but they will only contact them when there is important matter. Therefore, President Zhou Zhenyang was a little confused and curious about Wu Tong calling him at this time. President Zhou, 2 monster-level geniuses have appeared in our guild hall. I think they are qualified to enter the elite training camp of our martial arts hall. Zhou Zhenyang raised his eyebrows when he heard this, 2 monster-level geniuses. You're not talking about the 2 children Luo Xia and Luo Feng, are you? Because Wu Tong had handed over the information of Luo Xia and Luo Feng before, Zhou Zhenyang had some impressions. While recalling the information, he said, I remember that these 2 children just became warriors a few months ago. It seems that Luo Xia's physical fitness reached the level of a high-level warrior as soon as he became an official warrior. His brother Luo Feng is also good, reaching the level of an intermediate warrior. One of them is 16 years old and the other is 18 years old. They can achieve such physical fitness at this age and without the support and training of their families. It is indeed good. Wu Tong had a smile on his face and said with a smile, I didn't expect you, President, to still remember these 2 brothers. Zhou Zhenyang smiled and said, their qualifications are indeed good. A few months have passed, how is their current strength? It actually makes you think that they can enter the elite training camp. Wu Tong straightened his face and said, President, these 2 children have just been tested in front of me. Luo Xia's physical fitness has reached the level of a senior warrior. Luo Feng has reached the level of an intermediate warrior. I will send you the specific test data now. Passed. The avatar Zhou Zhenyang was stunned for a moment, and then asked in disbelief, wait. What did you say? Then, he saw the data sent by Wu Tong and looked down. Punch power 63,420 kilograms, speed 5m/s, this has indeed reached the level of a high-level warrior. Luo Feng's is 1s, yes, this is the physical fitness of an intermediate warrior. Zhou Zhenyang took a breath, raised his head and looked at Wu Tong in surprise, and confirmed again, Wu Tong, are you sure this is the real data of the 2 of them? Wu Tong nodded seriously, I confirm that their test data is what I saw with my own eyes. My dear, I am 16 years old, no, I am 17 years old now, a 17-year-old high-level general. A 19-year-old intermediate general. I have lived for so many years, even those children who have been trained by big families since childhood have not. How can a person have such physical fitness at this stage? Zhou Zhenyang was amazed, and then said eagerly. Are those 2 brothers next to you now? You will bring them to the general hall later. I will invite the special envoy from the headquarters. The special envoy will verify their strength at that time. If nothing wrong, then they should be able to enter the elite training camp. Yes, President. Wu Tong smiled, nodded towards Luo Feng and Luo Xia, and then said to Zhou Zhenyang, I will take them to the general hall right away. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Swallowed Star, my understanding is beyond belief. Author, Bo Yun Song. Chapter 63. Zhou Zhenyang and Wu Tong hung up the phone, and then told the secretary on the side, cancel the afternoon meeting for me. Diamond suit, diamond suit, diamond suit, diamond suit. Yes, President. The secretary nodded and went to cancel the meeting. Zhou Zhenyang made a call at this time. Not long after, the call was connected, and a virtual figure appeared in front of him. The avatar was a little surprised and asked with a smile, Tai Xiao, you haven't contacted me for a long time. Why are you looking for me this time? Old Yang, I do have something to ask you. Looking at his old friend who appeared in front of him, Zhou Zhenyang smiled slightly. What's up? Two monster-level geniuses have appeared in our Jiangnan Bay city. A monster-level genius, Yang Hui narrowed his eyes slightly, with a surprised look on his face. Zhou Zhenyang is a god of war level existence. What kind of genius can he call a monster level? Well, their test data has been sent to you, please take a look. Zhou Zhenyang said. Yang Hui looked down and found that his communication watch had indeed received a piece of data. He glanced at it and finished reading the brief data. After reading it, his expression became a little surprised. He looked at Zhou Zhenyang and asked, Tai Xiao, are you sure these two data are correct? Seeing that his old friend's expression was exactly the same as his just now, Zhou Zhenyang smiled and said, this is what Wu Tong sent to me. There is no way it is fake. After all, if he lied, we can find out later. Yang Hui nodded, that's right. I just can't believe that the physical fitness of children who have just turned 17 and 19 has reached the level of a senior warrior and an intermediate warrior. After a pause, he continued with a rather amazed tone, even those children from big families who grew up eating various high-grade genetic medicines are not as strong as them. Zhou Zhenyang said, yes, so I think these two brothers are qualified to enter the God of War preparatory camp. Elite training camp. Yang Hui pondered slightly, then nodded, with their qualifications, they can already enter the elite training camp. But what? You also know that the places in the elite training camp are limited and precious. You will have to go to two Jiangnan Bay cities at once. Let's do this, I will go to your Jiangnan Bay city now. If the two brothers the physical data is correct, I will apply directly to them. Okay, when can we arrive? In an hour. Okay, I'll pick you up at the airport then. Speaking of which, we haven't seen each other in almost 8 years. The Extreme General Hall in Jiangnan Bay City. Luo Xia and Luo Feng followed Wu Tong into the lobby on the first floor. Hello, Director Wu, I am President Zhou's assistant. Please come with me. The president is already waiting for you in the office. As soon as they entered the club, a young man in a suit politely came forward and invited Luo Xia and the others to President Zhou's office. Wu Tong nodded and said to the assistant, trouble. The male assistant smiled slightly and took Luo Xia and the others into the elevator, all the way to the top floor of the general hall, and then walked into an office with low-key decoration and antique style. President. Wu Tong took the lead and shouted to the man behind the desk. Luo Xia and Luo Feng also quickly said hello. The man looked at Wu Tong and the others with a smile, and said with a smile, you three are here. Let's go to the airport with me. Going to the airport? Luo Xia and Luo Feng were stunned. What were they going to the airport for? Picking someone up? What kind of person actually needs the president of the general hall to greet him personally? Luo Xia and the others were curious, but when they walked out of the president's office, they were even more surprised to see Director Zhou and the other two directors. After greeting the three supervisors, Luo Xia and Luo Feng were even more surprised. The person coming from the airport had a high status and actually needed to be greeted personally by the four giants of the general hall. Soon after, a group of them arrived at the airport. Waiting area. The president of the Extreme General Hall, his three supervisors, and the two brothers Wu Tong and Luo Xia were all waiting eagerly. Suddenly, Zhou Tao smiled slightly, looked towards the sky, and said, here he comes. Whoosh. As he finished speaking, a phantom appeared in the sky above the airport, almost teleporting, and then slowly landed. Beep. As the plane door opened, Zhou Zhenyang took the lead and walked to the stairway. In addition to them, people from the Extreme General Hall, there were other outsiders here, all of whom were extraordinary figures. Everyone who comes out of the plane has a different identity. Luo Xia and Luo Feng just watched for a while and saw several characters who could only be seen on TV. Not long after, Zhou Zhenyang suddenly shouted happily, "Lao Yang." A middle-aged man in a grey robe heard his voice, walked over with a smile, shook hands with Zhou Zhenyang and hugged him. "Ha ha, Iron Hand, long time no see. Mr. Yang." Zuch Tao and the others shouted respectfully. Luo Xia and Luo Feng didn't know how to shout, so they could only bow slightly. Yang Hui had a conversation with Zhou Zhenyang, and his eyes fell on Luo Feng and Luo Xia. His eyes were very calm, but they put some pressure on the two brothers, and his heart suddenly lurched. "These are the two brothers Luo Feng and Luo Xia you are talking about, right?" he asked. Zhou Zhenyang nodded and introduced to Luo Feng and Luo Xia. "Luo Feng, Luo Xia, this is Special Envoy Yang from the headquarters, who came here specifically for you two." "Mr. Yang." Luo Feng and Luo Xia shouted. Yang Hui smiled and said kindly, "He looks really good. Let's go, without further ado, let's go directly to the headquarters to test the physical fitness of you two brothers." Soon after, in the large martial arts training hall in the Extreme General Hall, Luo Xia and Luo Feng have completed the physical fitness test in turn. Their results are similar to the previous test, and even slightly improved due to the stimulation of the atmosphere. Yang Hui did not hesitate and directly called the inspector. "Ding ding. Hello." A low and hoarse voice sounded. The atmosphere in the entire martial arts training hall became solemn in an instant. "Inspector." Yang Hui and the others shouted respectfully. The inspectors are all great figures who have surpassed the level of war gods. In the Extreme Martial Arts School, their status is second only to the founder, Hong. "Oh, it's Yang Hui, what's the matter?" The voice of the inspector came. Yang Hui said, "Mr. Inspector, I came to Jiangnan Bay City this time to verify the strength of two young people. One of them is 17 years old and has reached the physical fitness of a senior general, and the other is 19 years old and has reached the physical fitness of a mid-level general. I think both of them are qualified to enter the elite training camp. Oh." The inspector was slightly surprised, and then fell silent. Yang Hui and Zhou Zhenyang also remained silent and did not dare to interrupt. As for Luo Xia and the others, they did not dare to say anything more. After a long while, the inspector continued. "Huaxia came to our headquarters to negotiate not long ago and asked for a place in the elite training camp. This year's quota is almost full. Logically, we shouldn't give Huaxia any more places, especially two. Let's do this. Give them a chance and tell those two kids that as long as they can pass the B-level test, they will be allowed to enter the elite training camp." Yang Hui heard this and responded respectfully, "Yes, I know." The inspector said no more and hung up the phone directly. Luo Xia and Luo Feng looked at each other. B-level test. Swallowed Star, my understanding is beyond belief. Author, Bo Yun Song. Chapter 64. Zhou Zhenyang waited until Yang Hui hung up the phone before he said, "It's actually a B-level assessment. Generally speaking, it can be done without an A-level assessment, right?" Yang Hui smiled, looked at Luo Xia and Luo Feng, and said, "There's nothing we can do. The main reason is that you asked for two places at once. If the assessment is not a little bit more difficult, I'm afraid others will have opinions." After a pause, he continued, "Besides, the physical fitness of these two little guys is strong enough, and the B-level assessment should not be difficult for them. Okay, Luo Feng and Luo Xia, do you have any other questions?" Luo Feng and Luo Xia looked at each other and shook their heads. Luo Feng said, "Mr. Yang, we have no more questions." Yang Hui smiled slightly and said, "Well, you two brothers come to sign the contract. This contract is in 4 copies, one of which belongs to you, and the remaining 3 are used to go through the process." After he finished speaking, the male assistant who had just led Luoxia and the others up brought up the contract and guided the two brothers to sign. After Luoxia and Luofeng finished signing, Yang Hui took out a jade seal and stamped it. Okay, there's nothing else to do next. Zudge, go and call Hung Xia up, Yang Hui said. Zudge nodded, went downstairs, and soon came up with a handsome young man. When Yang Hui saw the people coming, he smiled and introduced them to Luofeng and Luoxia. Luofeng, Luoxia, this is Hung Xia, a young warrior selected by our extreme martial arts school to enter the basic training camp this year, and he is also a young genius. Luofeng and Luoxia smiled at Hung Xia. At this time, Yang Hui introduced Hung Xia again. Hung Xia, this is Luofeng and Luoxia. Luofeng is your senior brother, and as for Luoxia, he should be younger than you. They will go to the global headquarters of our extreme martial arts school with you this time, and their goal is to enter our elite training camp. Hung Xia was slightly surprised when he heard this. He naturally knew the special features of the elite training camp. I didn't expect Luofeng and Luoxia to be qualified to enter the elite training camp. Especially Luoxia, who looked younger than him. I always felt that I had seen this face somewhere before. Hung Xia's handsome face became serious, and he said to Luofeng and Luoxia, Brother Luofeng, junior brother Luoxia, let me introduce myself, Hung Xia, a freshman at Jiangnan University. Jiangnan University, this is the best university in our Jiangnan base city. Junior brother is amazing, unlike me, who just failed the college entrance examination. Luofeng said with a smile. Hung Xia looked at Luofeng and Luoxia. Suddenly, he widened his eyes, looked at Luoxia and said, I remember. You are the national champion of this year's college entrance examination. Luoxia touched his nose and laughed, I want to be low-key, but I was recognized. Yang Hui next to him was stunned, and then laughed. Luoxia is also the champion of the college entrance examination. Hung Xia said excitedly, yes. I remember very clearly that the math questions this year were very difficult, and many people did not do well on the test, but Luoxia got full marks. And he took the test across grades. Yang Hui smiled and said, it seems that Luoxia is a genius who is both civil and military. Mr. Yang, you are too kind. Luoxia smiled modestly. Yang Hui nodded and said, well, I will tell you the date of going to the headquarters now. It is March 28th. At that time, you three must rush to the airport to meet us before 2 p.m. Luoxia and others nodded, yes. Okay, there is nothing to do next. You all go back and have a good reunion with your family. After joining the training camp, you will only have a holiday to go home during the Chinese New Year. Yang Hui said. Mr. Yang, President, Supervisor, then we will go back. Luoxia and others said hello and left the headquarters. They took the train home. In the night scene with bright lights, everything outside the window seemed a little dreamy. Luofeng said, we'll be gone for 5 years, I plan to go see Wei Wen before I leave. Brother Wen, Luoxia thought for a moment, I remember Brother Wen was admitted to the 2nd Military Academy of Jiangnan. Yes. I haven't contacted him for a long time. Luofeng said with emotion. He and Wei Wen grew up together and had always had a good relationship, but after leaving school, because of the different living environment, they had less communication. Do you want to go with me? Luofeng suddenly asked. Luoxia shook his head, forget it, I won't go. In addition to meeting Brother Wen, you must also want to meet senior sister Su Xian. I remember their school is in the university town, very close to each other. Luofeng blushed. Is this kid a worm in his stomach? This can be guessed. Cut it out, if you don't go, forget it. I was thinking of taking you to experience the atmosphere of the university, Luofeng said. Luoxia curled his lips, rested his head on his hands, leaned on the train seat, and said, the atmosphere of the university is just like that. Luo Feng looked at his brother with a smile. You talk as if you have been to university. It's just like that. What? I really have been there. It's just not in my previous life. Luo Xia glanced at Luo Feng and didn't say anything in the end. Those wanton and frivolous stories, after all, stayed in another world. The next day, Luo Feng went out to the university town early in the morning. As for Luo Xia, he stayed at home and slept in for the first time in a long time. Like Luo Feng, Luo Hua also went out early in the morning. Today is the weekend, and taking advantage of the holiday, he made an appointment with his girlfriend to go shopping and watch a movie today. Without losing his legs and two genius-level warriors at home, Luo Hua is much more confident than in the original book. Xiao Xia, aren't you getting up yet? All parents are like this. When you are not at home, they miss you very much, but when you are at home, they can't bear to see you lying in bed doing nothing. Before 10 o'clock, Luo Hongguo was urged by Gong Xinlan to walk into Luo Xia's room. He sat at the corner of Luo Xia's bed and shouted to Luo Xia, who was still sleeping on the bed. Dad, is there something wrong? In fact, Luo Xia had woken up a long time ago, but he suddenly felt lazy and stayed in bed. It's okay, it's just that your mother's meal is getting cold, so she asked me to wake you up to eat. After eating, you can come back to sleep if you want to. Luo Hongguo said. He also knew that his two sons couldn't even sleep well in the wilderness area on weekdays. So when he saw Luo Xia lying on the bed, he and Gong Xinlan wouldn't say anything. Just let him go to eat, and come back to sleep if he wants to after eating. Luo Xia responded, oh, I see. I'll get up right away. Okay. Then you get up quickly. Luo Hongguo nodded, looked around Luo Xia's room, and walked out of the room as if nothing had happened. After Luo Hongguo walked out, Luo Xia got up from the bed. He stretched his body, and his bones were creaking. He looked at the bright sunshine outside the window and sighed, it's such a good day today. Casually picking up the clothes thrown aside and putting them on, Luo Xia washed up, went downstairs, and finished his breakfast under Gong Xinlan's satisfied eyes. He didn't do anything else next. He sat on the balcony with a stack of ancient Chinese books in his arms and started reading. He remembered that the reason why Hong and Lei Shen could have their own domains at the planetary level was because they understood and verified some ancient ideas and reached the state of unity between man and nature. Luo Xia also wanted to have his own domain as soon as possible, so he would hold various ancient Chinese books and read them to understand the ideas in them whether he had time or not. Domain, that is a skill that only cosmic level masters can cultivate. And not all cosmic level masters have it. Possessing a domain at the planetary level is definitely a sign of genius. If Rorschach remembers correctly, in the original work, Hong and Lei Shen were invited by the Virtual Universe Company because they possessed domains. Swallowed Star, my understanding is beyond belief. Author, Bo Yun Song. Chapter 65. When Luo Feng went home in the evening, his mood was not quite right. Luo Xia asked, and Luo Feng said it was okay. He didn't ask any more questions. Probably not a big deal. But in fact, when Luo Feng went to see Su Xian, he met a man named Wang Xinping. This Wang Xinping is the son of the Wang family in Kyoto Bay City. The Wang family is amazing, it is one of the 9 core families of the HR Alliance. Wang Xinping originally studied in Kyoto City, but because he wanted to pursue Su Xian, he transferred to Jiangnan University. When he learned that Luo Feng was looking for Su Xian, he went to warn Luo Feng and ask him to leave Su Xian. Luo Feng was not in a good mood because of this incident. But he didn't take Wang Xinping or even the entire Wang family to heart. Because Luo Feng is convinced that sooner or later, he will be able to make these people who look down on him look up at him. The days passed day by day, and soon, March 28 came. Jiangnan Base Municipal Airport. Xiaofeng, Xiaoxia, you should take good care of yourselves. Looking at Luo Feng and Luo Xia, Luo Hongguo warned in a low voice. Gong Xinlan, who was standing next to him, with tears in her eyes, also warned, "You two brothers must pay attention to safety. You must eat when you should eat, and sleep when you should sleep. Do you understand?" "I know," Mom Rorschach said with a smile. Luo Feng looked at Luo Hua aside and said, "Ahua, my third brother and I are not at home. You have to take good care of your parents." "Well, third brother, you guys, don't worry." Luo Hua nodded solemnly. "Luo Feng, Luo Xia, come here to check the tickets." In the distance, Yang Hui shouted. Luo Feng and Luo Xia waved goodbye to their families and friends, "Then let's go." More than an hour later. Rightward arrow. Flying technology landed at the global headquarters of Extreme Martial Arts Hall, Hongning Bay City's airport. When they walked out of the disembarkation aisle, they could see a stretched Cadillac, which was the special car that came to pick them up. "This is Hongning Bay City." Rorschach looked out from the car window and could see a large number of ancient Chinese-style buildings with pavilions and pavilions everywhere. Being in it, there is a sense of science fiction that combines ancient times and technology. Hongning Bay City was a base established by Hong and some human warriors during the Great Nirvana period. It then slowly developed and eventually became a large base city. Its direct leader is Hong, the strongest person in the world today. Along the way, Yang Hui introduced Hongning Bay City to Luo Xia and others with a confident and proud smile. Soon after, they arrived at training camp. "This is an elite training camp. Hong Xia, you should also go in and have a look. Work hard. Maybe you will have the opportunity to join it in the future." As he got out of the car, Yang Hui said to Hong Xia. He was very optimistic about this handsome junior. Yes, Hong Xia was a little excited. This is the world's #1 training camp known as the God of War Preparatory Camp. With a feeling like a pilgrim, Hong Xia followed Luo Xia and the others into the elite training camp. As soon as they entered the gate, they saw a giant dragon-shaped sculpture. This is a black dragon that is nearly 50 meters tall. Its eyes are very strange, as if it has come to life. When Luo Xia and the others walked in, they felt a strange aura of terror suppressing them. Luo Xia raised his eyebrows slightly and looked up into the black dragon's eyes. As for Luo Feng and Hong Xia next to him, their expressions were a little uncomfortable, as if they were frightened, and their expressions were blank. Yang Hui quietly assessed the performance of the three people. He was secretly surprised to find that Rorschach's face was calm and he could still gaze into the black dragon's eyes. He is worthy of being a genius who has reached the level of a high-level warrior at the age of 17. It can actually resist the black dragon's aura suppression. He marveled in his heart, let out a clear drink, woke up Luo Feng and Hong Xia, and said with a smile, "Ahem, it's just a sculpture, are you scared?" Only then did Luo Feng and Hong Xia come back to their senses. "Mr. Yang, is this a ranking?" Rorschach, who was fine, noticed the names and numbers displayed on the black dragon scales and couldn't help but ask. "I saw that the scales of the black dragon sculpture were actually small display screens. 1 Renata's Bridge, 530,321. 2 Chuchiang, 540,601. 3 Ebonpa, 520,316. 182 Jacqueline Berner, 570,319. From top to bottom, there is a name on each dragon scale, a total of 182 people. Yang Hui smiled and nodded, "Yes, this is the ranking of all students in the entire elite training camp." Luo Feng asked, "Mr. Yang, what are they ranked according to?" "Combat PowerPoints," Yang Hui explained, "the higher your ranking, the more resources you can get in the training camp. So if you two pass the B-level assessment and enter the training camp, you must work hard to improve your ranking." Luo Feng and Luo Xia looked at each other and nodded. Follow me, remember, don't run around. Yang Hui ordered. Yes, Luo Xia and the others followed Yang Hui into the training camp. Not long after, Rorschach and the others saw other people in the training camp. Among these people, there are men and women, white people, black people, and yellow people. The people you see now are all students in the training camp. As Yang Hui spoke, he suddenly pointed to a 9-story tower-shaped building in the distance and said, "Did you see that tower? That's called the 9-story tower. It's the place where all students study and train. Some special training rooms are also there. Keep moving forward." Inside the training camp, except for sleeping, the students are basically in the Zhuzhong building. There are 182 students, and 30 to 40 students graduate every year, so the training camp will recruit 30 to 40 people from all over the world every year. However, 2/3 of the enrollment quota is recruited from the basic training camp of our Extreme Martial Arts Hall, so Hengxia, if you go to the basic training camp, don't slack off. Hengxia's eyes lit up and she nodded, understood. Okay, we're here, Hengxia, you wait here, I'll take Luo Feng and Luo Xia to go through the check-in procedures. While they were talking, they had arrived at a 2-story pavilion. Yang Hui warned Hengxia, then took Luo Xia and Luo Feng into the pavilion and went through the check-in procedures. At present, this kind of processing can be done directly online. There is no need to dispatch full-time personnel to handle it. You two brothers will stay here today and have a night's rest. I will come back at 12 noon tomorrow and take you two to Zhuzhong building to take the B-level assessment. If you want to eat something, just call the number here and someone will bring it to you. Luo Feng and Luo Xia nodded, okay. Then I'll leave first. I have to take Hengxia to the basic training camp, Yang Hui said and walked out of the pavilion. Luo Feng and Luo Xia walked around the pavilion and finally came to the balcony on the 2nd floor to observe their surroundings. Well, the layout of this elite training camp is completely arranged according to Chinese Feng Shui. It's a bit mysterious. Luo Xia had read a lot of ancient Chinese books and had some understanding of Feng Shui. After entering the training camp just now, he discovered the special features of the layout here. Feng Shui, Luo Feng was a little confused. Yes, Luo Xia nodded and explained Luo Feng's doubts. Brother, haven't you noticed? Since we entered the training camp, our mood has become very peaceful and not impetuous. This is all because of the environment here. Rorschach pointed to the mountains in the distance and the locations of several pavilions. These places are very particular. Why are they built there? Because it is the node of the world, or the center of the magnetic field. When these buildings are placed there, they adjust the atmosphere and magnetic field of the world, making the overall atmosphere of the training camp quieter and more suitable for people to practice. Luo Feng blinked, is it so mysterious? Luo Xia smiled, this is not mysterious, but has scientific basis. Hi, Chinese. The two brothers were talking when suddenly a voice came from below, speaking standard Mandarin. Luo Xia looked down and saw a young man looking up at the two brothers. Luo Feng smiled and replied, yes, Chinese. Hearing this, the young man smiled and said, my name is Tian Qian, from Northeast Bay City. My name is Luo Feng, and this is my brother Luo Xia, from Jiangnan Bay City. Luo Feng smiled. Tian Qian said, you two brothers are here to accept the entrance test, right? Work hard, there are many Chinese people here. When you officially enter the training camp and get together, I will leave first. After saying that, he held a spear and walked towards the Zhuzhong Tower. As he walked, he waved the spear in his hand, making a popping sound. Luo Xia raised his eyebrows and said, Tisk, this marksmanship is even better than that of brother Zhangke. It is indeed an elite training camp. It is not easy for just anyone. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Swallowed Star, my understanding is beyond belief. Author, Bo Yoon Song. Chapter 66. Early the next morning, Luo Feng and Luo Xia woke up. The two brothers didn't dare to wander around. They just practiced their genetic energy in the pavilion. At noon, they called for a sumptuous lunch. While eating, Yang Hui walked in. The weather is not very good today. It's dark in the middle of the day. It looks like it's going to rain heavily. He muttered about the weather, saw Luo Xia and Luo Feng eating, and said with a smile, "Okay, I have a good appetite. Are you ready?" "Mr. Yang, have you eaten?" Rorschach asked. "Don't worry about me." Yang Hui shook his head and sat down on a chair nearby. "You guys eat. After we finish, we will go directly to the Zhizhong building." Soon after, Luo Feng and Luo Xia finished lunch. As they cleared the dishes on the dining table, they asked, "Do we need to prepare anything? Weapons? Combat uniforms?" "No, just come with me empty-handed," Yang Hui said. Under the leadership of Yang Hui, Luo Xia and Luo Feng quickly arrived at Zhizhonglu. When you get closer to this tower, it is a huge thing, with a length and width of more than 100 meters, and each floor is more than 6 meters high. Its appearance is very classic and elegant, but the interior is full of high technology. The ground is made of hard alloy, and you can hear explosions and shouts coming from various locations from time to time. "Let's go to the 9th floor." Yang Hui took Luo Xia and Luo Feng into the elevator. The elevator is very fast. Not long after, they arrived at the 9th floor. As the elevator door opened, an empty hall appeared in front of Luo Feng and Luo Xia. There are some mats in the hall, and some young men and women are sitting on them casually chatting. They come from all over the world and speak different languages, some in English, some in French, and some in Mandarin. When Luo Xia and Luo Feng walked in, many people looked at them. "Brother, Chinese?" A young man who looked like he was Chinese asked the two brothers. Luo Feng nodded, "From China." A bald young man heard this and said with a smile, "Come on. If you can come in, we will have 2 more Chinese people." "Stop dreaming." An awkward Mandarin came out from the mouth of a black girl next to her. She glanced at Luo Feng and Luo Xia with a sneer on her lips. Rorschach raised his eyebrows, glanced at the black girl, chuckled lightly, and did not refute. Sometimes actions are more powerful than words. He and his eldest brother Luo Feng followed Yang Hui, walked past these young people, and came to the innermost part of the hall. There is a passage here, with large rooms on both sides. Soon, Luo Xia and Luo Feng were taken to the innermost room by Yang Hui. The space in this room is not large, and the light and shadow are a bit dim. Snap! Yang Hui turned on the lights. Luo Xia and Luo Feng could see that there were 2 sofas in this room, and a faint blue helmet was placed on both sofas. These 2 helmets were imitated by us human scientists who spent a lot of effort. They imitated the consciousness sensors of the virtual space equipment excavated by the ancient ruined civilization. Yang Hui pointed at the helmet and introduced it to the 2 brothers. "We can only imitate this simple consciousness sensor. As for the host of the virtual space, it is still the ancient machine that has been sleeping underground for countless years." Luo Feng looked at the helmet in surprise. "Virtual space? Consciousness sensor?" Rorschach also raised his eyebrows slightly. Isn't this the kind of virtual helmet in the online game novels he read in his previous life? Yang Hui said, "When you put on this helmet, your consciousness will enter a virtual space that is 100% simulated, which can be said to be the same as the real space." He looked at Luo Feng and Luo Xia. "Your B-level test will be conducted in the virtual space. There are only 2 of you here. Who will come first, you 2 brothers?" Luo Feng and Luo Xia looked at each other. He took a step forward and said to Yang Hui, "I'll go first." Yang Hui nodded, "Okay, then Luo Feng will come first." He stepped forward and took the helmet on the sofa in his hand, and said to Luo Feng, "Follow me, hold the helmet in your hand, and then lie down on the sofa." Luo Feng did as he was told. Yang Hui said solemnly, "When you put on the helmet later, your consciousness will directly enter the virtual space, so don't panic. Come on, put on the helmet." Under the gazes of Luo Xia and Yang Hui, Luo Feng took a deep breath and put on his helmet. For a moment, he seemed to have fallen asleep and his breathing became calmer. Seeing this, Yang Hui looked towards Luo Xia and said, "You wait outside for a while. When your elder brother finishes the assessment, I will take you into the virtual space." Rorschach nodded. Yang Hui also put on a helmet. 30 minutes later, Yang Hui and Luo Feng woke up and took off the helmets on their heads. "Brother, how are you?" Rorschach asked. Luo Feng smiled happily, "Fortunately, I passed." "Xioxia, you'll have to work hard later." Rorschach nodded. Yang Hui next to him didn't get up, but just said to Luo Xia, "Okay, Luo Xia, come in with me." So Luo Xia lay down on the sofa, took the helmet from his elder brother Luo Feng, and put it on his head. The moment he put it on, Rorschach felt a buzzing sound in his head, and then fell into a trance. When he regained consciousness, he found that he was standing on an endless silver land. Is this a virtual space? Rorschach looked around and felt his body. He found that his physical fitness was much weaker than in reality, but it was very real, as if he had another physical body, which was very magical. Yang Hui appeared next to Luo Xia at this time and said with a smile, "Yes, this is the virtual space. Did you see the trial tower in front? That's where the assessment is conducted." Luo Xia frowned and asked, "Mr. Yang, why do I feel that this body is different from the one in reality?" Yang Hui nodded and replied, "That's natural. We just entered here with consciousness, so the body you can perceive is set in the virtual space. Here, everyone's physical fitness is the same. Whether it is the god of war, an existence beyond the god of war, or an ordinary warrior, the physical fitness will become exactly the same." Yang Hui looked at Luo Xia and smiled, "Right now, our normal punching power is 10,000 kilograms, the speed is 150 per second, and the nerve response speed is excellent at the junior warrior level." Explaining what he had just said to Luo Feng again to Luo Xia, in this virtual space, everyone's physical fitness is the same. Even if the Hall owner Hong enters, it is still the body of this data. In this way, you can easily attest a person's true fighting ability. Rorschach listened and nodded. "I see. This virtual space is where everyone is truly equal. Let's go, follow me to the trial tower," Yang Hui said, walking towards the towering trial tower ahead. Swallowed Star, my understanding is beyond belief. Author, Bo Yun Song. Chapter 67. Rorschach looked up at the trial tower. This trial tower is very huge, like the Tower of Babel, majestic and huge. Look at the stone pillar over there. Yang Hui motioned Luo Xia to look at a black stone pillar on the left side of the main entrance. This stone pillar seemed to be able to sense Rorschach's gaze. When he looked over, Rorschach's message immediately appeared on it. Name, Rorschach. Gender, male. Status, Elite Training Camp Preparatory Student. Trial Tower Level, 1. The so-called trial tower level refers to the number of trial tower levels you can break through. For example, if you pass the first level and enter the second level, your trial tower level will be upgraded to level 2. Upgraded to the third level, it is level 3. Like me, it is level 2. Since you have not yet entered the world, you are the original level 1. Luo Xia was a little surprised and asked, "Mr. Yang, is your level only 2? Yang Hui smiled and said, "Of course, the trial content of this trial tower is very difficult. You have to know that our physical fitness here is the same. Even the owner Hong has only made it to the 6th floor. Luo Xia looked at the trial tower and murmured, in other words, no one can clear the trial tower right now. Yang Hui nodded, yes. Okay, you get ready, the trial will begin soon. As soon as he finished speaking, Rorschach heard an electronic sound coming from the void. Rorschach, please choose combat uniforms and weapons. After selecting, enter the trial tower within 1 minute to accept the B-level test. For a moment, pieces of combat uniforms and weapons appeared in front of Luo Xia. He looked at them casually and chose a combat uniform that fit his body size, as well as a silver moon sword and a 6-edged shield. After he finished selecting, these combat uniforms and weapons were immediately equipped on Rorschach. Yang Hui looked at Luo Xia and said with a smile, your brother has already passed, and I believe you can pass it too. This B-level test is a medium difficulty test in the first floor trial tower. Come on. Rorschach nodded, not nervous about the next assessment. A minute passed quickly. 1 second ago, Rorschach was still standing at the entrance of the trial tower, but as time passed, he seemed to have been moved by the universe, and instantly appeared on a vast prairie. Electronic sounds came from the void. Rorschach, your B-level test is to kill 100 junior beast general level bulls that besiege you within 30 minutes. If you die in the middle, you will fail. If after 30 minutes, the number of oxen killed does not reach 100, it is also a failure. This is your first time entering the trial tower and you have 5 minutes to prepare. Rorschach looked relaxed. Did he just kill 100 elementary beast level monsters? He has even killed the scaled iron bull, let alone the reckless bull that is not as good as the scaled iron bull. This was obviously easy for Rorschach. You know, he has now mastered 8 times the power generating skills. Therefore, although the physical fitness is limited and much weaker than the physical body in reality, the 8 times the force technique is definitely a cheating level here. Soon after, the 5 minutes of preparation time arrived. B-level assessment begins. As the electronic sound rolled across the vast grassland like thunder, a wild bull with a head more than 3 meters high appeared in front of Luo Xia. Moo moo. As soon as these low-level beast generals appeared, they all roared with red eyes. Facing these monsters, Rorschach did a sword dance and chuckled, ha, come on. After the words fell, Luo Xia had already rushed into the group of wild cattle with a long sword before waiting for the bulls to rush over. Swish, swish, swish. The sword light flashed, and the wild cows screamed and turned into corpses, falling to the ground. Rorschach seemed to have transformed into the god of death, calmly and gracefully harvesting the lives of these reckless animals. His body skills have already entered the perfect level, and he is only 1 step away from the strongest artistic conception level. His body seems to be integrated into the environment, making full use of everything around him. Luo Xia danced gracefully. Although the bulls kept roaring and charging, they never hit his body. Instead, with the flash of sword light, they turned into corpses on the grassland one by one. 10 minutes later. It took 10 minutes and 6 seconds to kill all 100 bulls. Passed the B-level test. Congratulations, student Rorschach. Electronic sound came from the void. Luo Xia stood on the grassland full of corpses, shook off the blood stains on the sword blade, watched the bodies of the wild cows disappear into shadows, and chuckled, it's not difficult at all. In the process of hunting the wild bull, he didn't even use the 8 times force technique. Relying purely on personal combat experience and skills, these bullies were easily defeated. Student Rorschach, you will automatically leave the virtual space in 5 seconds, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. The electronic sound sounded again. Immediately afterwards, Rorschach felt a trance in consciousness. He shook his head slightly and found that he had left the virtual space and returned to reality. Xiao Xia, how are you? Luo Feng was waiting aside. Seeing Luo Xia wake up, he asked quickly. Rorschach smiled slightly and said, "Passed." "Okay," Luo Feng smiled happily. Yang Hui next to him also took off his helmet at this time, looked at Luo Xia and said, "You kid, it only took you 10 minutes to pass the B-level test. It seems that you will be promoted to the second level of the trial tower in a short time. You are indeed a monster-level genius." The teacher praised me. Because they have entered the training camp and become students, Luo Xia and Luo Feng can also change their tune. Yang Hui smiled, got up from the sofa, and said, "Although I know that the B-level test is not difficult for you two brothers, it is rare in the training camp to pass the test in about 10 minutes. Okay, let's go out and take you to go through the camp check-in procedures." "Yes." When Luo Xia and Luo Feng followed Yang Hui out of the trial room, the talented warriors from all over the world in the hall looked over one by one. They saw that the three of them had smiles on their faces. A young man with yellow skin, obviously a Chinese, asked, "Teacher, did they pass?" "Passed." Yang Hui smiled and nodded. Hearing this, the others immediately looked at Luo Xia and Luo Feng in surprise. They all passed. For a time, many people came up to communicate with Luo Xia and Luo Feng, and some people looked at Luo Xia and Luo Feng, discussing something secretly. After a while, Luo Feng and Luo Xia said goodbye to these geniuses and followed Yang Hui. By the time we left the Zhezonglu, it was already raining heavily. Fortunately, the three of them brought umbrellas with them when they arrived. Although there are only more than 180 students here, secretly, several organizations and forces in the world are involved. The water inside is very deep. Because both Luo Xia and Luo Feng became students in the training camp, Yang Hui said some words to the two of them that were difficult to say before, as a warning. "Luo Feng, Luo Xia, you have become a member of the elite training camp. As long as you are not eliminated, your future is destined to be brilliant. Here, many forces will woo you, and you will encounter temptations such as money, beauty, power, etc. You must remember that the most important thing is your strength." Luo Feng and Luo Xia listened carefully. Yang Hui is also optimistic about the two brothers, and they are both from China, so he said these words. If it were anyone else, he, Yang Hui, would be too lazy to say these things. You have only one goal now, and that is to sprint for a higher ranking on the training camp rankings. The higher the ranking, the more training resources you can get, the better. Luo Feng and Luo Xia both nodded. Okay, it's best if you can listen to these words. Now tell me, what code name are you going to choose? Yang Hui said, today is March 31st, and tomorrow April 1st will be the date you officially join the training camp. Therefore, the first 4 digits of your codename are 5704. As for the last 2 numbers, you can do whatever you want. When Luo Xia and Luo Feng heard this, they suddenly realized. It turns out that this is what the numbers after the names on the rankings mean. Rorschach thought it was some points at the time. It turned out to be the code name of the student. Luo Feng thought for a while and said to Yang Hui, 01. Luo Xia said, then I will be 03. Yang Hui smiled, does this mean your ranking in the family? Luo Feng and Luo Xia looked at each other, smiled, and said, that's right. Yang Hui nodded, okay, Luo Feng's code is 570,401, and Luo Xia's is 570,403. With the code, the next procedures can be completed quickly. Swallowed Star, my understanding is beyond belief. Author, Bo Yun Song. Chapter 68. After the procedures were completed, Luo Feng and Luo Xia's names appeared on the Black Dragon carving rankings. 183 Luo Feng, 570,401. 184 Rorschach, 570,403. This news spread almost instantly to various organizations and forces around the world. Some special government departments, as well as the 9 core families of the HR Alliance and dozens of important families, quickly received the news. And on that very day, 2 pieces of detailed information on Rorschach and Luo Feng appeared in the hands of the heads of these organizations. From the birth of Luo Feng and Luo Xia, they started living in a low-rent housing community. Their relatives, friends, enemies, etc. are all recorded in the data. A 17-year-old senior general, a 19-year-old intermediate general, and they were both born as civilians. Are these 2 little guys awakened to their spiritual power? He's from China again. I don't know if I can be won over by us. Let's inform the family members in the training camp and let them make friends with Luo Xia Luo Feng. We can win them over to join us at any cost. The talents of these 2 people, especially the boy named Luo Xia, if he does not perish along the way, he is destined to become a strong man beyond the god of war level in the future. Similar words came from the mouths of various organizational forces. Of course, no matter how violent the wind and rain outside, Luo Xia and Luo Feng in the training camp have not been affected in any way yet. Currently, they are heading to a garden called Jiangnan Pavilion under the leadership of Yang Hui. According to Yang Hui's introduction, Jiangnan Pavilion was named after Jiangnan Bay City, and 2 geniuses from Jiangnan Bay City also lived in it. One of them is Shi Jiang, who is ranked among the top 5 in the training camp all year round. Even a veteran god of war like Yang Hui is not necessarily Shi Jiang's opponent. As for the other student, his name is Zhao Ruo. It's a woman. The strength is equally extraordinary. Soon, Yang Hui, Luo Xia and Luo Feng pushed open the courtyard door and walked into the courtyard. There are 3 pavilions in this courtyard. Yang Hui didn't hear any movement and shouted directly, Shi Jiang, Zhao Ruo. After the words came out, not long after, a short-haired girl wearing a loose nightgown appeared on the 2nd floor balcony of a loft on the left. On the pavilion directly in front of Luo Xia and the others, a figure jumped down. It was a figure wearing a young man in black training uniform. These 2 people are Zhao Ruo and Shi Jiang, whom Yang Hui introduced before. Shi Jiang is not very tall, only a little over 1.7 meters tall. The overall impression is that he is made of a piece of steel, very calm and strong. Are there new students? Zhao Ruo shouted excitedly next to her. She looked at Luo Xia and Luo Feng and laughed, and 2 of them came at once. Hello, are you 2 brothers? Yang Hui smiled and said, this is Luo Feng and Luo Xia. They are indeed brothers. From today on, they will live with you in Jiangnan Pavilion. Shi Jiang, Zhao Ruo, you are senior brothers and sisters. Luo Feng, Luo Xia and the others just came here, please take care of me. Don't worry, leave it to me. Zhao Ruo patted his chest, with me as my senior sister here, I won't let them suffer. Okay, Luo Feng and Luo Xia, this Jiangnan Pavilion currently only has 3 pavilions, 2 of which belong to Shi Jiang and Zhao Ruo, and the remaining 1 belongs to your 2 brothers. Is that okay? Yang Hui said. Luo Feng nodded, no problem. Okay, if there's no problem, I'll leave first. Yang Hui patted Luo Xia and Luo Feng on the shoulders, turned and left with a smile. Come on, sit down. Zhao Ruo greeted Luo Xia and Luo Feng, you're welcome. Currently, the 4 of them are in the attic where Zhao Ruo lives. After Luo Xia and Luo Feng sat down, Zhao Ruo said with a smile, I came here in 1955, and senior brother Shi Jiang came here in 1953. They are both much earlier than you 2. Luo Xia smiled and said, senior brother and sister are here so early. Zhao Ruo poured water and asked, by the way, I haven't asked you 2 brothers which city in Jiangnan Bay City you are from. I am from Suzhou City, and senior brother Shi Jiang is from the main urban area. Luo Feng said with a smile, we are from Yangzhou City. Shi Jiang smiled in surprise and said, my grandpa is in Yangzhou City. The four of them chatted, not only about things at home, but also about the training camp. Because Luo Xia and Luo Feng had just arrived, Zhao Ruo and Shi Zhang were the ones introducing the two brothers most of the time. Such as points. In training camp, points ranking is very important. From the 1st to the 28th of every month, it's time to earn points. The 29th is the time for points settlement. When the final ranking of each month is released, the points for this month will be cleared. Then continue next month. These specific details are included in the student instructions. Luo Xia and Luo Feng only need to go back and read it to know the details. Soon after, Luo Feng and Luo Xia said goodbye to Zhao Ruo and Shi Zhang and returned to their pavilion. Brother, these are the instructions for students. The two brothers looked through the student instructions together and soon had a deeper understanding of the training camp. In this training camp, there are three very important facilities. They are trial room, challenge room, and gravity room. These three training rooms are all made based on the products of ancient civilization relics. The most important of them is the gravity chamber. Due to technical problems, there is only one best gravity chamber at the moment. There are many imitation gravity chambers, but because they can only be increased by a small amount, they are far less good than the gravity chambers dug out of ancient ruined civilizations. So if you want to use the best gravity chamber, you have to look at the rankings. The higher the ranking, the longer the gravity chamber can be used. Ranked first every month, if you can accumulate 9 first place finishes, you can get a dragon's blood worth 80 billion, you can choose any 3 full sets of cheat books for free, you can choose Hong or Thunder God as your teacher, and become his direct disciple. Luo Feng recited the contents of the instructions and looked a little excited. Luo Xia on the side also read, ranked first every month, if you get it 6 times in total, you can get a drop of chalcedony worth 30 billion, you can choose any full set of cheats for free, and you can get personal guidance from Hong or Lei Shen once. Next, there are rewards for ranking first. Luo Feng muttered, it seems that it is very difficult to accumulate 9 times and become the first. These rewards are so good. Luo Xia smiled and said, it is precisely because of the difficulty that the rewards are so good. At the same time, it can also stimulate the student's potential. Luo Feng nodded and continued to look down. With level 6 of fist power, you can get a portion of dragon blood worth 80 billion, SS level combat uniforms, and a full set of weapons. Fist power level 5, you can get. Luo Feng looked at the long list of rewards and suddenly looked at Luo Xia. Xiao Xia, is this so-called level of punching power a technique for exerting force? If so, haven't you already surpassed this level? You know, Rorschach's current force-generating skills have reached 8 times. Converted into force level, isn't it level 8? In other words, Rorschach can now get the reward of fist level 6. After Luo Feng finished speaking, he continued reading. At level 5 of the Trial Tower, you can obtain the position of Inspector of the Extreme Martial Arts Hall, and receive a copy of Dragon Blood worth 80 billion, SS level combat uniforms, a complete set of weapons, any 3 complete sets of cheats, and the ancient civilization relic Black God set. Luo Feng said, the rewards for this Trial Tower level seem to be better than the previous rewards. Inspector, I remember that Teacher Yang and the others contacted the inspector at the Extreme General Hall at that time, right? Yeah. The inspectors seem to be existences beyond the god of war, Rorschach said. Luo Feng frowned and said, I just don't know what this ancient civilization relic Black God is. Luo Xia smiled and said, since it can be placed among a pile of good things, it must be a good treasure. The Trial Tower is level 5, which means you need to break through to the 5th floor of the Trial Tower. This is very difficult. Even the leader of the hall, Hongdu, only made it to the 6th floor. Luo Feng said. When he took the B-level assessment before, he was sweating profusely. Even a god of war like Yang Hui is still on the third floor of the trial tower. He couldn't imagine what kind of test he would have to face if he wanted to break to level 5. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Swallowed Star, My Understanding is Beyond Belief. Author, Bo Yun Song. Chapter 69. Soon, Luo Feng and Luo Xia had read the complete instructions for students. Luo Xia and Luo Feng discovered that the most important things in this training camp were the trial tower level, fist power level, and black dragon ranking. Zhao Ruo and Shi Zhang did not explain the points clearly, but Luo Xia and the others understood it clearly after reading the instructions. The so-called points are the achievement points multiplied by the combat power amplitude. The way to obtain achievement points is very simple, just by hunting monsters. A basic beast level monster is worth 1 battle point. A medium beast level monster has 10 battle points. A high level beast level monster has 100 battle points. An elementary lord level monster has 1000 battle points. Of course, in the elite training camp, even if someone has the strength to hunt down lord level monsters, they will not do it. Because once 2 lord level monsters are hunted, the strength assessment will be directly promoted to the God of War level, and then the students will graduate and leave the training camp. The combat power amplitude is the fist power level multiplied by the trial tower level. For example, someone has 1000 record points fist power level 5, and trial tower level 2. Then his combat power amplitude is 5*2, which is equal to 3. The final points conversion is 3*1000, which is equal to 3000. Brother, there are also instructional videos here. After reading the student instructions on the computer, Rorschach also discovered other teaching videos. The classification of these videos is very detailed, dividing them into guidance technique, body technique, force development, knife technique, sword technique, spear technique, stick technique, hammer technique. Speaking of which, brother, can you now apply your power skills to speed and defense? Luo Xia asked Luo Feng while checking the teaching video on the computer. Luo Feng nodded and said, now I can use my strength to speed. At the moment, the strength of my legs has doubled. It can be regarded as reaching the second level of the 9-level Thunder Sword. When Luo Xia heard this, he was a little surprised and said, okay, brother, it will be effective so quickly. Luo Feng smiled slightly and said, my current burst of power has reached the 3rd level of the 9-level Thunder Sword, 8 times. However, in terms of speed, because it is not the same as a power explosion, adjustments and training are required, so it is 1 section slower than a power explosion. He sighed and said, as for defense, it is more difficult, because you have to control the muscles of the whole body in more detail. I only have some ideas now, and I haven't made much progress yet. As he said that, he looked at Luo Xia with emotion and said, since you were a child, you have had the best brain among the 3 of us, and you can learn everything the fastest. You should be able to use the force-generating skills freely now, right? Luo Xia nodded, it's not difficult. Brother, what's wrong with you about defense? I'll give you a reference. He has extremely powerful understanding. As long as you break through the force-generating skills and then adjust and train them, you can quickly apply them to other aspects of the body. Luo Feng said, that's it, let me demonstrate it to you. As the 2 brothers spoke, they came to the underground secret room under the attic and started training there. Under Luo Xia's guidance, Luo Feng quickly mastered the skills to increase his defense power. However, because he was just getting started, at this time, he could only increase his defense power by 4 times. The 2 brothers were training in the basement and didn't know the time. When Zhao Ruo and Shi Zhang came over, they realized that it was already night. You 2 brothers are working too hard. It's only your first day and you're training hard in an underground secret room. The voices of Zhao Ruo and Xizhang rang out from the speakers in the underground secret room. The two of them discovered that Luo Feng and Luo Xia were not in the pavilion, so they guessed that they had entered the underground secret room. They immediately connected the pavilion's contact line and spoke to Luo Xia and Luo Feng in the underground secret room. You two, hurry up and get ready. It's almost 8 o'clock. We, a group of brothers and sisters, have prepared a reception dinner for you tonight. Luo Feng and Luo Xia looked at each other, a little surprised. It's almost 8 o'clock. The two brothers also felt that they had almost finished practicing today, so they left the underground secret room and said to Xizhang and Zhao Ruo in the yard. Senior brother, senior sister, please wait a moment while Xiaoxia and I take a shower, change our clothes, and come out immediately. Xizhang nodded and said with a smile, there's no rush, there's still time. Zhao Ruo watched the two brothers take a shower and said with a smile, they too are really working hard. No wonder they have reached the physical fitness of a warrior at such a young age. At 8 o'clock in the evening, Luo Xia and Luo Feng changed their clothes and followed Zhao Ruo and Xizhang to the number 1 restaurant of the elite training camp. On the second floor of the restaurant, the senior brothers and sisters from Huaju held a welcome dinner for Luo Xia and Luo Feng. These brothers and sisters were very enthusiastic towards Luo Feng and Luo Xia, and they all came to them to drink and chat. Many senior sisters seemed to be somewhat interested in Luo Xia and kept talking to him. An hour later, Rorschach found an opportunity and came to the corner alone. I can breathe a sigh of relief. He put the wine glass in his hand aside and smiled slightly when he saw that his eldest brother Luo Feng was still communicating with other senior brothers and sisters. Suddenly, a voice called Rorschach. Rorschach. Rorschach looked up and saw a tall, tough-faced young man walking over. He was the man of the hour in the elite training camp and the host of this dinner. Chu Qiang. Brother Luo Xia greeted. Chu Qiang came over with a smile and asked, why, are you not used to the atmosphere of the dinner party? Luo Xia smiled and said, yes, I am a little uncomfortable. Haha, when you grow up, there will be many such banquets. You must get used to it in advance, Chu Qiang said with a smile. Luo Xia nodded, and seeing Chu Qiang's expression of being busy, he asked directly, brother, do you have something to talk to me about? Chu Qiang glanced at the others, and then at Luo Feng in the crowd, and whispered, originally, I should have told your eldest brother about this, but now he has a lot of people, so I came to you directly. What is it? Our military is very interested in you two brothers. I wonder if you are willing to join us. The military. Luo Xia was stunned. He and his eldest brother had just entered the training camp, and someone came to pull them? The students in this elite training camp are really as popular as teacher Yang Hui said. Yes, Chu Qiang smiled slightly, you should know the excellent qualities of our army. We are never stingy with talents. If you and your elder brother graduate, the treatment we give will definitely not be low. As long as you agree to join, then during the 5 years in the training camp, we will provide you with 5 billion activity funds each. Luo Xia blinked, and after a while, he said, brother, I have to discuss this with my elder brother. Well, Chu Qiang took a sip of the wine in the glass, I need to discuss it with your elder brother, then when you have discussed it, please reply to me. Okay, brother. Next, Chu Qiang chatted with Luo Xia for a while, then said goodbye and left, and went to chat with other people. Soon after, some people came to Luo Xia, without exception, they all came to win over him and his elder brother Luo Feng. I didn't expect that after we entered the training camp, we would be targeted by so many organizations. We received 6 invitations in one night. On the way back to Jiangnan Pavilion, Luo Feng looked at the stars in the sky and said to his third brother Luo Xia beside him. Luo Xia said, brother, what do you think of these invitations? Luo Feng thought for a while and said, We have just joined the training camp, what can we think? Just like teacher Yang Hui said, here, strength is the most important. So let's reject all these invitations. Improving our own strength is the serious matter. Luo Xia smiled slightly and said, I think so too. Swallowed Star, my understanding is beyond belief. Author, Bo Yun Song. Chapter 70. In the early morning of March 30th, the temperature was very low. However, for Luo Feng and Luo Xia, who have become warriors, the low temperature will not have much impact on them, so they wear very loose training clothes. Because you will not be considered an official student until April 1st. Luo Xia and Luo Feng didn't have any classes to attend these 2 days. Early in the morning, they ran in the training camp to exercise. After their bodies slowly warmed up, Luo Xia and Luo Feng came to a relatively spacious lawn and began to practice warm-up and exercise techniques. The warm-up and bodybuilding techniques created by Rorschach are still effective today. The two brothers never slack off and will practice whenever they have time. When they were doing a very difficult movement, a voice suddenly came over. Are you Luo Feng and Luo Xia? Although this person spoke Mandarin, his accent was slightly awkward, and you could tell he was a foreigner. Luo Xia and Luo Feng stopped, panted slightly, and looked at the approaching foreigners. My name is William Edison, from the European Union. The young man with short blonde hair looked at Luo Xia and Luo Feng and smiled. Luo Feng blinked, hello, I'm Luo Feng, and this is my brother Luo Xia. What do you want to see us for? William said enthusiastically, I have always been curious about China, and there are many talented warriors from China in the training camp. You two brothers were recruited separately. I would like to compete with you to compare our strength. No, do you know if you are willing to meet my request? Rorschach pointed at his elder brother, then at himself, looked at William, and said in surprise, you mean, you want to fight the two of us alone? William was startled, and then quickly shook his head, no, I mean, I want to have a discussion with one of you. Luo Xia and Luo Feng looked at each other. Rorschach asked, how do you want to spar? William looked at Rorschach and said with a smile, can I go to the challenge room to compete? Luo Xia frowned when he heard this. According to the introduction in the student instructions, entering the challenge room to compete means entering the virtual space for a life and death battle. According to the rules of the training camp, there will be bets in such battles. Before Luo Xia and Luo Feng could answer, William bared his teeth and said, we won't bet big, how about 1 billion Chinese coins? Luo Feng frowned and whispered to Luo Xia secretly, this bastard obviously came to the two of us on purpose. Luo Xia nodded and asked, brother, do we have 1 billion Chinese coins now? Luo Feng was startled, are you going to accept it? Rorschach bared his teeth and smiled brighter and more enthusiastically than William, since there are kind-hearted people giving us money, why can't we accept it? At this time, he also remembered this plot in the original work. In the original work, William also challenged Luo Feng, and under Luo Feng's provocation, the bet between the two rose from 1 billion to 5 billion. The reason why Luo Feng dared to raise the stakes was because in the original work, he also went to City 003, stole the home of a Lord-level armored dragon, and obtained many precious combat uniforms and weapons from it. After selling those combat uniforms and weapons, he had a net worth of tens of billions. But now, neither Luo Feng nor Luo Xia has been to City 003. The two of them only hunted in City 023, so naturally they didn't have that much money. 1 billion. Luo Feng calculated secretly in his mind, then nodded and said, the two of us have been working hard in City 023 for nearly 2 months. There should be more than 1.1 billion in the account now. Luo Xia raised his eyebrows and said, that's fine. Just as he was about to agree to William's challenge, an angry shout came over, William. Immediately afterwards, Zhao Ruo, who was wearing purple training uniform, walked over with an angry look on his face, stared at William and shouted. William, you are so shameless. Luo Feng and Luo Xia have just arrived, and they are still passers-by at the training camp. Since you want to go to the challenge room with them for a gambling battle? Isn't this giving you money? She pointed at William, obviously angry and not ladylike at all, but Rorschach thought he was cute and sincere. You dirty guys, in March, you secretly found a few newcomers and asked them to compete with you in a gambling battle and lose money to you. Now you are looking for Luo Feng and Luo Xia. If you have the ability, you can bet with me. Ah! William was pointed at by Zhaoruo and his expression was not good. Miss Zhaoruo, this has nothing to do with you. I believe Luo Feng and Luo Xia are very strong, otherwise the training camp wouldn't have recruited them alone, right? He shrugged, looked at Luo Feng and Luo Xia, and said with a smile, maybe I lost to them. Zhaoruo looked at Luo Feng and Luo Xia and advised, you two, don't believe this foreign devil. Some people in the training camp are very insidious and specialize in bullying newcomers. You have just entered the training camp, how can you be the old man's opponent? William chuckled and said to Luo Xia and Luo Feng, it's only 1 billion. If you join any organization, you will get more than this amount of money in a year. Haha, you are right. Rorschach laughed, looked at William and said, since you are so willing to give us money, I am naturally happy to accept it. I accept your challenge. When William heard this, he smiled excitedly, very good. Make an appointment. Zhaoruo, who was next to him, was stunned for a moment, then looked at Luo Xia angrily, Luo Xia, why did you agree to him? I didn't mean. Senior sister, don't worry. I dare to promise him, so I am confident. What about the old man? Luo Xia was filled with a confident look at this time. Sometimes, Qian Lang will be beaten to death on the beach. After saying that, Rorschach looked at William and chuckled, I think tomorrow will be good. It is impossible to say the exact time, because there is only one challenge room and it may be occupied by other students, so we must wait for the computer system to pass before we can arrange a specific time. Good. William laughed, turned around and left. Rorschach, how can you gamble with William? In Jiangnan Pavilion, Zhaoruo looked at Luo Xia, a little angry and worried at the same time, and said sullenly. Do you think you are a genius? You are very strong. You have never met anyone better than your peers in the past, so you are very confident. Luo Xia smiled slightly, sister, I admit that I am very confident, but my confidence is because I have confidence. Zhaoruo said angrily, what confidence do you have? You are a genius. Isn't that William a genius? This is an elite training camp that only recruits monsters. Which student is not a genius? She pointed outside, that William has been in the camp for a year, and his combat power has reached a medium level. You have just joined the camp, how can you beat him? Shizhong, who rushed back after hearing the news about the gambling war not long ago, said at this time, okay, Zhaoruo. Since Luo Xia dares to agree, he must be sure of himself. And, where have you seen a 17-year-old senior warrior? Zhaoruo was stunned, yes. The boy in front of him is a 17-year-old senior warrior. He is one of the top few in this training camp who can achieve such physical fitness at this age. Okay, I won't say anything anymore. Oh, aren't I worried that Zioxia will suffer a loss? After thinking about it, Zhaoruo was no longer angry. After sighing, she said with a smile, since Zioxia is confident, then teach that foreign devil a lesson. Let him know that we Chinese are not easy to mess with. Rorschach nodded and said with a smile, no problem. I'll let him see what it means to have a gap between geniuses.